Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to comics class. My name is Brandon Pallas, and I'm here to teach you everything I know about the weird and wonderful art of drawing comics. Today we're going to continue with our perspective series. Last week we spent the whole time talking about the horizon line, which is an extremely important um, concept, underlies everything to do with perspective. Um, Today we're going to move on to what's called linear perspective. That's the 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective, probably what most people think of when they think of perspective. Um, it seems intimidating if you haven't studied this stuff before, or even if you had and maybe it was difficult. But it's not that hard. Hopefully, I can help you understand. Um, we'll go through that, and then next week we'll probably finish up the perspective series next week with just some kind of tricks and I don't know what to call them. Not tricks exactly, but like there's a lot of little things, a lot of little details, ways to do different stuff that are kind of specific. So we'll do that next week. This week we'll do the basics of linear perspective. Um, so we'll get into that in a minute. But right now, let's go ahead and get into some warm-ups. So if you're going to follow along, you can stream so I can see what you're doing. Otherwise, you know that's not necessary. But yeah, let's go ahead and start with some warm-ups. We'll just start with some S curves right now. We'll just do a little bit of these because now that we're doing perspective, we're doing a lot of more straight line based stuff. But I feel like this is super valuable to just warm up your hand and to develop your ability to make nice, elegant lines. So just a bunch of S curves. We can do wide ones like the letter S here. We can do long, sort of flowing ones. Do both directions. Go up, go down. This is all just about developing your hand, developing your ability to execute nice looking lines quickly and reliably. I'll go side to side here. Some tighter ones, side to side. Just a few more, then we'll move on to C curves. I guess I usually start with C curves first, but it doesn't really matter. All right, let's go ahead on to C curves. For anyone who hasn't heard me say it before, basically all lines are made up of C curves, S curves, or just straight lines. I guess we should practice our straight lines. We'll do a little bit of that coming up. But if you need a truly straight line, you can always use a ruler. C curves and S curves, there's less opportunity for that. There are various kinds of devices you can get that you can put down and get precise curves. I've never used those much. Whoops, I'm back to S curves. What am I doing? Okay, so just some C curves. Just, you can get long, stretched out, elegant ones. You can get these little tight ones. Make sure we go both ways. Make sure we go up as well as down. I feel like with both of these S curves and C curves, obviously naming them based on the letters that they resemble, I find that my best ones are the ones that go the way the letter does, not surprisingly. So it's good to make sure we're practicing those other directions as well, because we're going to need to draw them that way. All right, just a few more of this. And then, since I always have a habit of mostly going up to down or down to up, get some horizontal ones as well. All right, and that's plenty. So let's move on now. What I want to do is I want you to make a point, and then I want you to draw straight lines, straight as you can. They don't have to be perfect. You know, this is just practice. None of this has to be perfect. It just has to, you know, we just need mileage. We need time doing this, and we'll get better. So make those lines connect to that dot. And you're going to find which angles you're strong at and which ones you're not. Some of these I do pretty well, and then when I get to like around this angle or around this angle, it's really bad. But that's fine. And you can probably guess that since we're doing perspective with your vanishing points and all that, that the point of this exercise is just to get used to shooting a line toward a point. All right, that should be good. Now let's go ahead and what we're going to do is the same thing, but we're not going to put a point this time. We're going to imagine a point. Try to like focus your eyes, imagine there's a point there, and draw your lines toward it. And they don't have to connect. You know, once you start connecting the lines, now you've kind of created a point. And what I want to do with this exercise is get you into a thing where you can kind of imagine a target to shoot your lines toward. You know, I'm going to show you all the technical stuff, you know, the way to like figure out your vanishing points and you know, really kind of technically direct your lines back toward the horizon line, toward the vanishing point. But in addition to that, it's good to learn how to kind of freehand this and to do it without setting up all of that structure. Because the more you do it, the more you get a sense, or you just kind of develop a felt sense of perspective where you can just kind of, without even having to set that stuff up, you can just kind of like, as you're drawing your picture, you understand the perspective in it, and you can kind of just do it, you know. And depending on the style, you know, you may need to use rulers and stuff. I often, in my cartoonier work, I like to not use rulers. I like to just freehand my hard surface stuff, my buildings, my vehicles. You don't have to do that, but I like to be able to do it. I like the slightly whimsical look that it gives, and I also don't like always having to use rulers. So it's a nice skill to develop. Let's see how everybody else is doing. Looks good. A few more. Let me just do one more little starburst here. All right. Almost done. Now what I want to do is I want to just draw some cubes. This is pretty simple. Kind of just draw a box or a square at a little bit of an angle there. Project it back. Just do your best on this. These don't have to be good. I know we haven't even covered the linear perspective lesson yet, so if you haven't been exposed to that stuff before, this may be pretty difficult, but that's fine because we don't need to make beautiful art here. We just need to, you know, go through the thing. Just do it a bunch of times. So, you know, your little boxes may not look that great, but you are developing your abilities and you're improving, and they'll look great later on. So let's just do, I don't know, another half dozen of these. And you can, if you kind of have an understanding of it, you can kind of make them converge and get kind of smaller toward the back, or you can just leave them in a kind of a isometric sort of way. I think that's what you call it, where there's no convergence really. So let's just do just a few more. Hey, welcome, Cools. Oh, and Kana. Welcome, Kana, as well. Full house in here today. That's cool. For all of you guys that are new, you're welcome to speak up or ask questions at any point. I will periodically remind you guys that, you know, if you have something to say, something to ask, you can go ahead and speak up. You know, don't talk just to talk, but if you have something that you feel is relevant to the class that you want to say or you want to ask, then by all means. So let's just do a few more of these. All right. And that's probably good. So let's go ahead and get into the lesson. So last week, I'm just going to go ahead and freehand out a picture plane here. We're pretty much always going to want to work within a picture plane when we're doing our perspective scenes. So I'll just freehand out a little box, and then we're going to put the horizon line straight through it. Now, as we covered last week, the horizon line is the point at which the viewer or the camera is looking at the scene. If the person, you know what, I should have done, let me do this. Okay. Horizon line. And then I will put this, I'll put this picture plane on a different layer so that I can move it up and down. If the person viewing this scene is like down on the ground, like maybe they're like down on their hands and knees looking, then the horizon line is going to be low. And maybe if a person was standing in this scene, the horizon line would be passing through their ankles. Or maybe this person is up high. Maybe they're even standing on a stool or something. So their point of view is a little bit high and it's above this person's head. I'm not going to go into all the horizon line stuff. We covered it last week, but just remember, just understand that the horizon line changes depending on where you look at it. You can see it right now if you can, if you get up in the room you're in, and you stand up, and you'll see the everything kind of converging toward a point that's level with where your eyes are. If you're in a room, this is another picture plane, and if you're standing here and you're looking, the horizon line will be right there where your eyes are, and the corners of the room will be converging toward that horizon line, and the lower corners, as well. The not the corners, but the lines of the room. However, if you got down real low on like your hands and knees, for instance, this is a terrible little drawing, but whatever, you can understand it. The horizon line's here, and now all of these lines will be converging down low. So hope that makes sense. We did a whole hour on it last week, so you guys can check that out if you missed it. So now we'll go ahead and move on to talking about linear perspective. So we've got a picture plane, we've got a horizon line. As things get further away they get smaller in our visual field. That's called convergence. If something is all the way up the horizon, like if we're on the beach, right? Here's the sand, here's the water. Um, and like, so say we're in a situation like at the beach where you can see all the way out to where it just disappears. You see the edge of the earth basically, because there's no buildings or anything in the way. Everything gets maximally small, if that's something you could say. Minimally small? I don't know. And kind of disappears at the horizon line, no matter how big it is. If we had a huge ocean liner here, that might take up a lot of space in the picture when it's close. As it gets further away, it's going to be smaller, and it's actually going to completely disappear as it gets to the horizon line. So do another one here, put a horizon line there. Now let's say we have a box. So I'll start drawing a box right here. And this is the front of the box. Let's say we're looking kind of straight at it. It's not angled to one side or the other. Let's go ahead and put what's called a vanishing point right here. Now, something you need to understand about linear perspective like this is that it's kind of a fiction. The horizon line is very much a real thing. Anytime you look anywhere, everything is going to converge toward the like height, the eye level. Another word for horizon line is eye level because it's the same thing. So it's always everything is going to converge toward that point. But the linear perspective, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective, is only relevant when we're dealing with parallel lines. Now, in our world, we deal with parallel lines all the time. Our buildings are mostly made out of sets of parallel lines and right angles. So we do have a lot of cause to use this, but you're never going to use this if you're drawing a jungle or something like that. Well, you might, and I'll explain that later on. Maybe next week I'll explain that. But for the most part, this comes into play when we're doing man-made objects like buildings, machines, stuff like that. Okay, so we've got a box. We're looking at the front of the box, but it's over to the side here, so we can see a little bit of the side. And that side, the lines, so we're going to see the side, and the lines on the side are going to converge toward that vanishing point. And then we'll put a little line for the back of the box there. And there's our box. Let's do another one here. Maybe I'll do a smaller one. And these lines will converge toward that same vanishing point. We'll estimate the back of the box there. Pretty simple. If anybody doesn't get anything about this, feel free to speak up, and I will do my best to answer. But this is pretty simple. We put the vanishing point right in the middle. That can change, but that's where we'll put it here. Let's see. Let's say I've got a box that is a very like flat box. These ones are, if we're looking right here, then these boxes are actually taller than the person that is looking. Last week, we spent a lot of time explaining how the horizon line will pass through the same point on any objects that are the same height. So if this person is right here and this person's twin is standing in the scene and they're the same height, then the horizon line is going to pass through the person's body right at the eye level. So this is a tall box, but this is a small box. And so these lines are going to converge back toward the horizon line, just like all the others. We can kind of just estimate where to put the back on. And that's that. Now we've got, let's say, a floating box. Like this. And this is the first one where we can see two sides other than the front. So, but it's still same thing. Those lines are just going to converge toward that horizon line. And we're going to put the back somewhere like that. Fill those lines in. So pretty simple, I think. Let's see. Let me do another one here. Horizon line. Let's see. Let's do a low horizon line here. So now we'll have some boxes. Let's also put the vanishing point a little over to one side. There's a lot of you have a lot of freedom in where you put the vanishing point. For 1 point perspective, you want to keep it somewhere toward the middle. You don't want it to be way over on one side or the other. I'll get into that later on why that is. But let's go ahead and put it like maybe 2/3 over to the side there. So now let's do another box here. That'll converge. And let's do another one. Let's do another floating box here. That'll converge toward that horizon or toward that vanishing point. And now let's do one that goes right in front of that vanishing point. Now, where's it going to converge? Well, we're not going to draw anything because we're looking straight at the front of this box. It's in front of the vanishing point, so it would converge this way. However, all of that is hidden from us because the vanishing point is behind the box. Now, let me go ahead and make that blue so we can see. Let's say that instead of this being a solid box, it's actually a hollow box, like a cardboard box that's open. We could draw the flaps there. We don't need to do that though. So we would see the inside lines converging toward that horizon line. So maybe we fill that in with a little shadow so that we can get the idea that we're looking at the inside. Maybe put a little shadow on the side of there. So that's basically it. We're going to stick with simple boxes for now. Probably next week I'll get into how you can deal with more complex shapes in perspective, but just to keep it simple, we're going to stick with boxes. So this is 1 point perspective. 1 point perspective is used when essentially we are looking straight at the front or straight at the side or whatever of these kind of man-made straight line, parallel line objects. So just a little bit more, put a vanishing point there. Put a tall box here, converge, put the back on. Put a floating wide box here, converge. Put those back ends on. Let's put like a long, let's see. I'll start that a little higher. This will converge. Go down here. These will converge. So that's 1 point perspective. It's pretty simple. It's used when the scene we're looking at is fairly straight on. We're going to get into all of the reference examples soon, and you'll see that. You want to keep the vanishing point relatively toward the middle of the picture plane here. You don't, over to the side a little bit like I did here, or like this one down here is okay. But like I said, these vanishing points, linear perspective, it's a little bit of a fiction. It's a little bit of a, almost like a cheat on the way our eyes actually perceive this stuff. So the closer that line is to the absolute middle, the better it's going to work. It still works fine to move it a little out to the side, but if you go way to one side or the other, let's go ahead and do another example. If you go way out to one side or the other, it's going to start looking distorted because we're seeing the absolute front of this box. It's not converging on this side, but this is going to be converging way out to the side. So it starts to look a little bit distorted. This isn't that bad, but probably best to avoid it. If you're putting it this far out, you probably want to start going to 2-point perspective. So that will lead us to 2-point perspective. Let me get rid of all of this stuff. The 2-point perspective, the picture plane and the vanishing point, exactly the same thing. But now, instead of converging to 1 point, we're going to be converging to 2 points. And usually, in the vast majority of cases, these points are going to be outside of the picture plane. If you're drawing, this can be a big pain. If you're drawing on paper, and you don't have like say you're drawing in your sketchbook and you're just like holding it in your lap and you made your picture take up the whole page. Well, now it's going to be a pain because your vanishing points are going to be way off of the page. So like if you have a drawing board or something and, you know, people in the old days used to like put a thumbtack or something to lay the ruler against for the vanishing point. But I might be getting ahead of myself. Okay, so let's try to straighten. I should probably be using straighter lines here. It probably doesn't matter for this part. Okay, so I'm going to put this one vanishing point way on the outside here. I'm going to put this other one a little bit on the outside here. And now these, instead of being these right angle lines, now all of our lines, all of our lines that would be horizontal, that would be parallel to the ground, are going to converge. So if I draw I'm going to start by drawing the corner of a box here, because that's not going to converge. This is only 2-point, so the vertical lines are not converging, only the horizontal lines. And now, this is a little tougher for me to do freehand, so I'll go ahead and use some rulers. This side is going to converge toward that vanishing point, and this side is going to converge toward that vanishing point. So that's 2-point. It's pretty simple. I'll give you more examples. Let's see. We'll do a floating one here. Converge that way, and it'll converge that way. And again, no vertical convergence. These vertical lines should all be exactly parallel to each other. Again, that's a little bit of a cheat. When we look at stuff like this in real life, there would be some convergence, but our eyes also have a little bit of like a fisheye effect where stuff kind of gets distorted, and linear perspective that we use like this is a way of simplifying the way our eyes actually work in a way that works pretty well for art. And you can get real crazy with all kinds of complex bulbous fisheye perspective and stuff. But to me, for the vast majority of artistic uses, most people don't need that stuff. Okay, so let's do let's see, little box on the ground here. It's converging to that vanishing point on the side. This one's going to converge toward that one way out on that side. Pretty simple stuff. If anybody is not getting this or has any questions, feel free. I should probably just do that, huh? Feel free to speak up. Okay, let's put a higher vanishing point now. So now we're looking at this scene from a little higher up. Not vanishing point, I mean horizon line. Move this stuff away. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna extend this ruler out. Like I said, the vanishing points will typically be well outside the picture plane, although it depends on the angle that we're looking at. If we were looking at, say, a perfect 45-degree angle, like let's say I'm looking at a box and this right here this is looking straight down at the box. If this is the box, it's like a perfect 45-degree angle. Then the horizon line or the vanishing points would be perfectly symmetrical. They would be the same distance on either side. And then we would draw the box like this, converge like that. Pretty much like that. However, if we're looking at let's see, if it's more like this, we're not looking straight like at the corner. We're kind of more to one side. Then that's when our vanishing points are going to be asymmetrical. It'll be like kind of way out here on this side and maybe like a lot closer on that side. So let's see. Let's go ahead and put a box in here. It'll be below the horizon line. It'll converge to that one on that side. It'll converge to that one on this side. Let's just go ahead and finish off that side. This one will converge to that one on that side. There. Finish that off. If you see me turning my canvas a lot, it's just because it's easier to draw the lines like that. Okay, so let's go and put one on over here now. This one, same thing. It's just going to converge to that line. Finish off that side there. This one's going to converge. I said that line, that vanishing point. This one's going to converge toward that side. So again, it's all just these sets of lines, all these parallel lines. Every line that's parallel to this box, to this side of this box, is going to converge toward this vanishing point. And every line that's parallel to this side of this box is going to converge to that vanishing point. Let's see. Let's put one peeking down into the scene from here above. We won't even have to draw the whole thing, but we got this floating box in the sky. It's going to converge like that. Going to converge like that. We could even have it go way back. And then let's see. This one, we'll keep this side narrow. And it's going to converge toward that one. And then this bottom line here, because it's parallel to these lines, will converge toward that one. And then this one here, because it's parallel to these, is going to converge toward that one. And with my sloppy freehand drawing, you probably can't really see, but I'm sure you get the idea. Okay, so that is 2-point. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to speak up. Let me see. Is there anything else I need to say about 2-point? I will say it is possible to keep the one of the vanishing points inside the picture plane. But if you're going to do that, you're going to probably want to put the other one way outside the picture plane. And you have to be wary of distortion. You can kind of do something like this. And that kind of works. But let's see. Yeah, I would say for the most part, until you understand it better, you should probably always keep your vanishing points in 2-point perspective outside of the picture plane. Although you can do it, but you would basically never Whoops. Let's see. Let me get rid of this. You would basically never want to have like a vanishing point here and one over here, because then we're going to get into situations where like, okay, we've got a box that's way over here and these lines are converging toward this vanishing point. Okay, no problem, right? But now these lines also have to converge toward this one. So our box is going to get all blown up on one side. So don't do that. I would say typically, unless you have a really good reason not to, make sure in 3-point or in a 2-point perspective that you're keeping your vanishing points reasonably well outside of the picture plane. And typically the closer it gets on one side to the picture plane, the further you're going to want it to go away on the other side. So like this is probably pretty good. We've got, an extra, let's see, that's about 2/3 of the space of the picture plane on either side. If we wanted to bring that closer, we would probably want to bring that correspondingly further away. So that's 2-point. 3-point is basically the same thing as 2-point, except we're going to add a third vanishing point that goes either up or down. So let me go ahead and let's see. Let's go ahead and create a couple of vanishing points here. And then I'm also going to put one way up here. And if you got to keep your vanishing points outside of the picture plane for 2-point, you usually have to keep it way outside of the picture plane for 3-point. Although it does depend, and when we get into the reference, we'll see examples. But this is exactly the same, except now all of our vertical lines are going to converge toward this vertical vanishing point. So let's see. Let's say I start drawing a box over here, and instead of being able to just make my vertical lines straight vertical, they all have to converge toward that vanishing point now. So it's going to go like that. This one's going to converge over here. Remember, this line has to be vertical here. I mean, not vertical. This line has to converge to that point. So does this one. And you can see it's getting pretty distorted because I actually kind of made a mistake here. But it's a good mistake because I get to explain why it's a mistake. This one converges that way. This one converges that way. So the reason this is weird and this distorted box here is because we have this horizon line that's well within the picture plane. And really, when you're doing 3-point, usually you want your horizon line to be outside of the picture plane. If you're looking up, which makes sense, right? If you're looking up at some skyscrapers, for instance, our eyes are kind of well below whatever it is that we're looking at. So let's say I'll go ahead and put a vanishing point way up there. Just kind of throw some, make a little bit of a grid here. I'll put a vanishing point here and a vanishing point. Let's see, I'll move this one further out. I'll put that there. So now this is us, we're looking up, right? This is the viewer looking up. And let's say there's some skyscrapers here. Everything is going to converge toward the top as it goes up toward that top vanishing point. And then everything is going to converge toward these horizontal vanishing points here. Let's see here, converge over there. This one converge to this one. So if we understand the basic concept of vanishing points, none of this should be that difficult. Let's see, this one converged toward the top. This one converges toward the right side. This one converges toward the left side. This line again has to converge toward the top. And this is kind of an extreme perspective, but it works. Because we made sure to keep the vanishing point or the horizon line below the picture plane. Now we can put it inside the picture plane a little bit. If you keep it very low or very high, if we're doing a high perspective, I'll do that next. If we keep it very low, it should work okay. But you also want to correspondingly like make sure that this vertical vanishing point is even higher probably. And you are also possibly going to get a little bit of distortion around the bottom. So in general, it's best with 3-point to keep your horizon line either above or below the picture plane. So I'll do another 3-point, and this time we'll do a high perspective, like we're looking down. So I'm going to put the vanishing point way up here. Now we're like up here looking down. Maybe we're sitting on top of a building or something. I'll put a vanishing point over there. I'll put another one over there. And then I'll put a horizontal vanishing or a vertical vanishing point way down here. So now let's see. We're going to be drawing the tops of some buildings here. So that goes that way. That goes that way. That goes that way. Remember all these parallel lines, each set of parallel lines converges to the same vanishing point. And then this one goes down toward that bottom vertical vanishing point. And then same thing if we, I'm just going to go ahead and rough in some perspective grid here. That actually tends to help. Okay, so we can just, using this grid as a guide, we don't necessarily need to trace all the way to that vanishing point, but just a bunch of the same stuff. This one converges to the bottom. This corner converges to the bottom. Let's see. Let's have one kind of extending outside of the frame here. Just for fun, that converges to the left. This one down. This corner down. So let me see. I'm looking at the people that are following along. Looks like everybody's kind of got the gist of it. Hopefully everybody is making sense of this. This part's pretty simple. We're just dealing with basic boxes and casting them into these 3 different types of linear perspective. And this is basically all there is to it. You can go further than 3-point perspective. You can get into like 4-point, 5-point, like that starts to get into weird fisheye sort of stuff. There are reasons you might want to do that occasionally, but for the vast majority of your purposes, you're only going to need these 3 styles of linear perspective. So let's see. Do one more. Well, you know what? Let's see. Here's what I'm going to do this time. I'm going to make this horizon line. I'm going to put it really low. And then I'm going to put the vanishing point, the vertical vanishing point, inside the picture plane. So this is going to be, we're looking like way up, like almost straight up. So I'll go ahead and just pull out some converging lines for a bit of a grid. I'll do the same thing for each of these vanishing points. And now we've got this really extreme perspective. So this one's going to converge toward that, but this one is going to converge toward that. This one's going to converge toward this one. And now we see we have this really extreme, like looking totally upward. Let's see, that would actually, yeah, look at that. See, let's see, does this? Yeah, this starts to get weird because look, if I put, so as long as everything stays kind of below this vertical vanishing point, it's all fairly sensible. But if I start putting stuff like, let me get rid of this one. If I start having stuff go like up above it, so this line here is still converging to the right vanishing point. This line here, the vertical line, converges. But let's see. The side, well, now this other line, because this is starting to come above this vanishing point here, it has to go that way. So that's getting pretty crazy. So be careful, typically I'll do a quick review real quick. For 1 point, we want to put the vanishing point inside the scene, inside the picture plane, somewhere near the middle. Inside. For 2 point, we want to put the vanishing points outside the scene. Or if you put it inside, like just barely inside. And for 3 point, usually we want to put the whole horizon line outside of the picture plane. And we want to put where you put the vertical vanishing point depends a lot on how extreme an angle. Like this is a very extreme angle, so we put it inside. Most of the other examples are less extreme. But usually you're going to want to make sure horizon line outside. You're usually going to want to put the horizon line outside, and you're usually going to want to put that third vertical vanishing point outside, like well outside of the scene as well. So I think that should be enough of explaining how linear perspective works. Like I said, next week we'll get into a bunch of little nitty-gritty details about like how to create more complex shapes than simple boxes, and how to like measure stuff and how to project stuff back in space. But right now we're just going to stick with the basic mechanics of these 3 forms of linear perspective. So let me pull up now my reference. And if you were here last week, watched last week's lesson, some of these will be familiar, some of these are the same. Many of them are different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these and I'm going to analyze them, and then we're going to just kind of draw over a little bit. So let's start with this little cafe shop here, right? This is almost a 1 point perspective. We're looking pretty straight, but we can see these lines here. Let's see. That's a good color. Yeah, it's a good color. We can see that these lines are converging. So we are dealing with a 2 point perspective. So let me see. I guess I'll freehand this. Let's trace these lines back. Looks like we're going to get a horizon line right about there. And then if we follow, let's extend that horizon line, because like I said, a lot of times these vanishing points are going to be way outside of the picture plane. If we track that, look at it, goes all the way over there. In fact, I'm even cheating it a little bit. Way over these people here. So this is an example of the sort of stuff that happens when you when you do 2 point with with one of your vanishing points inside the picture plane, because this one is inside. It's about like 1/3 of the way in, and that means in order for this to not look real distorted, our other vanishing point has to be way over here, which is like 2 whole extra lengths of the picture plane, at least. So we can have stuff converging that way. To this one, we can have stuff converging back to the vanishing point back there. Since the horizon line is inside the picture plane, there's probably going to be a very slight bit of vertical convergence here, like this, and you'll almost always see this in pictures, but you don't draw this way for the most part because it's a big pain in the ass. If you think this vanishing point is way out of the frame, you don't even want to know how far this vertical vanishing point would be out of the frame, because we can see like this wall is converging this way and this line on the door is converging this way. But man, we would have to go so far down to get those two lines to connect. So it really isn't worth it. It's just going to be confusing. It doesn't necessarily look any better. In fact, if I were to draw this scene from scratch, I probably wouldn't even use 2-point. I probably would just let these, I probably would just let these edges of the table here not even converge. Just keep them parallel and just use this 1 point right here. All right, so let's see. What's next? Okay, here, I'm going to call this kind of like 1 point. We're not going to have convergence to the sides like we would in a 2-point, but this is a kind of a special case because we're looking kind of straight forward where things are not going to be like angling and converging to the side, but we're also looking down. So this is technically 2-point perspective, but it's a vertical 2-point. Let's see. Our horizon line is probably, let's see. Let's go ahead and measure it out. Whoops. Okay, so follow those bricks there, and then I'll follow this. All right, so that's about where our horizon line is going to be. Let me draw that in. All right. And there is our vanishing point straight back. So all of these lines should converge about to that vanishing point. Very simple, very convenient. However, now we have these vertical vanishing lines that are converging downward. So what we're going to do is we're going to, let's see, I think we can just drop it straight down from that vanishing point. I think that's typically how it works. So this one goes this way. This one goes this way. And yeah, so that'll be our vertical vanishing point. And all of this stuff should run down toward that vertical vanishing point. I hope you guys can see that well enough on the screen. It's probably kind of small. But yeah, like I said, when we're dealing with vertical convergence, unless we're really looking at an extreme angle, your vanishing point is usually going to be well outside of the picture plane. Let's see. Okay. This one is a very simple 1 point. All of these, we're looking straight at this storefront or whatever this is. All of these lines here are totally horizontal. There's no vertical convergence. Everything is straight up and down. But we do get convergence with these lines here, with this line of the fence. So let's measure it out. I'll go ahead and trace that line of the fence. I'll trace this line, and those are going to cross right there, which should mean that's where our horizon line is. So let's test that. Maybe not. I don't know. So one thing, maybe I didn't do a good job with this sign. I don't know. Or maybe that sign is not. So one thing that you have to watch out for when analyzing photographs like this, is that not everything is necessarily as right angle and parallel line as we wish it was. Some of this stuff is going to be a little bit like off kilter, and it's going to throw us. So like, let me go ahead and go back and do another one. What I'll do is I'll take these lines on this column here. Okay, so theoretically it should be about there, but there's something in this picture that isn't quite lining up. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I just did it sloppy last time because that actually works pretty okay. I think it's this sign. This sign is probably not actually lined up with the rest of this stuff because all of this is working okay. Let's see, this fire escape here. We can see some converging lines right there. So let's trace that. Yep, pretty much right there. All right, so that sign over there was throwing us. All right, let's move on to something else. Let's see. All right, here we have sort of a rotunda or something. We can see all of these lines converging vertically to a vanishing point up here somewhere. This is a little bit difficult because it's not a bunch of right angles. We've got this. One second here. Okay, so we've got this kind of circular shaped building, right? So each of these are not, none of these lines are like parallel to each other. They're all at different angles. So what this means is that they're actually all going to a bunch of different vanishing points. That's why I explained that 2-point, 3-point, 1-point perspective are all kind of a fiction. Because really any lines are just going to converge to wherever they're going to converge to based on what angle they're at. Each of these little sort of box sections are at a slightly different angle, so they're all going to converge to slightly different places. You know, if they were all right angles, then we would have a couple of tidy like 1-point or 2-point convergence. But since they're all going different angles, they're all going to go to different vanishing points. So that's something I'll cover next week. We'll move on from that. Let's see. This one, just this this is a small section of this house, but let's just look at it and kind of figure out from our context clues like what the perspective is going to be. Obviously, we're looking up. These lines are converging down. These ones are also converging down, but not quite as strongly. But if we followed these lines way out here, we would find that it would, let's see, they match up about right there, which means, oh man, I can't even, it's not even on the page. I think I can put a ruler. Oh no, okay. So in Clip Studio, I forgot about this. You actually can't have a ruler that's entirely outside of the page. So I can't even put a ruler there. But yeah, so our vanishing point is down here somewhere, or our horizon line. We also have a vertical vanishing point going, up here somewhere. And we don't really see any of the lines that would be converging the other direction. Maybe we would see a tiny bit on this windowsill, but not really enough to give us a strong indication. But, we know from context that we're looking at a 3-point perspective looking upward. All right. Let's see. Let's go to this cafe sort of situation over here. All right, so let's just pick some lines. We got this one here, runs way down that way. Let's drag that out a little more. Put that line. Let's see, this one goes up that way. Okay, so now we know our vanishing point is right there. Or yeah, our vanishing point, and then our horizon line is going to come right through here. So now, ideally, let's see, we should see that everything that goes this way will converge to that same, to a vanishing point on that same horizon line. Some of this stuff isn't lining up quite perfectly, but you know, like I said, all of these lines are not necessarily truly parallel in real life. Let's see, someone in the chat. Okay. Not relevant to you guys. Okay. So this, these lines converge this way. These ones this way, all to this vanishing point. Since the horizon line is like smack in the middle of this page here, or this picture, we are definitely not going to have any vertical convergence. So all of these vertical lines should be just like straight vertical. And then obviously the chairs and stuff. Actually, this is the perfect example. When I said that only parallel lines will converge to the same vanishing point. Okay, so like we can assume that these lines of the walls and stuff are reasonably parallel. So they're all going to converge to the same vanishing point. And but this chair here is not at the same angle as the rest of these walls. So let me grab a different color here. And I will trace from this corner of the chair, like leg, through the other one and back to that horizon line. And then let's go through the other one. So we get to like right there. I'm not sure what's going on with this end of the chair there, but in any case, this is and then if we trace this is actually going to go way, way, way further. And these will that might actually be totally square. Those may be at a strange angle. But in any case, this is a good example of how something at a different angle will go to a different vanishing point. Although, as long as the chair is not actually tipped to the side or whatever, as long as it's resting on a flat plane, it should still go to the same horizon line. It'll just be the vanishing point will be at a different point on that horizon line. All right, so let's see. Here we have another one that is a let me get rid of all of these lines. Oops. No, what's it doing? Oh, it's saving? I didn't mean to save. Okay, give me 1 second. All right. Let's see. So here we're looking up. It's kind of 1 point. This is that kind of 2 point that's kind of like a 1 point with a vertical vanishing point. So it's technically 2 point, but it's a lot like 1 point. All right, these buildings are not perfectly square to each other either, because we can tell from this and this still converging downward, we can tell that the horizon line is below that somewhere. But if I trace these buildings, you can see that they're converging there. So that very likely means that these buildings are not actually at right angles to each other. They're a little bit tilted. Okay, so I'm going to actually leave that alone. Here's a real simple 1 point. We've got the horizon line there. We can see this pier converging to the horizon line on that side. Whoops. And then we can kind of infer, we can't exactly see it, but we can kind of infer that it would be converging the same way on the other side. These people, let's see, let's track, let's take this line of these tiles on the ground, track it back that way, and then this line for the edge of these stores. All right, so our horizon line should be right about there. We'll stretch that out a little bit. We don't know about this table. This table is probably roughly parallel to these lines, but because it's kind of a freestanding table, it's probably tilted a little bit. So that will, well, let's see. Let's try it. Let's track some of these horizontal lines. It's gonna, so we're gonna go way, I'm not gonna do that because it's gonna be way, way, way outside. But you can see, obviously these lines are gonna converge just to a point way on the outside there. And also, since the horizon line is above the picture plane, we're going to get some amount of vertical convergence where this line is coming this way, this one's coming this way, and they'll meet way down there somewhere. All right, let me jump over to my second set of reference, and I'm not going to do everything, but hopefully there's some stuff in there that where I can kind of give you guys some additional details. Okay, so here is you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and isolate this because it's getting too hard to deal with all the other pictures. All right, so let's trace the line of this building down. Trace this line down. Let's trace this one. Okay, that's going to be about there. This one, right about there. So conveniently, just barely makes it within the page. If I bring a line between those, it's actually not entirely straight. So maybe I was sloppy with measuring my lines, or maybe this picture actually is taken at a little bit of an angle. All of these lines should, ooh, no, that's bad. Let me start this over. I probably was just sloppy measuring my lines. Sometimes I get on the wrong tool. I have the same tool bound to the same key, or I have multiple tools bound to the same key so that I can just hit it multiple times. Sometimes that comes back to bite me. Let's see. Okay, so that should be right about there. Track this one back. Should go right about there. Put a horizon line. So now, okay, we're looking at a 3-point perspective. The horizon line is indeed below the picture plane. Let's see. Let's find where it converges vertically. It's probably going to be pretty high up. I hope you guys can see. All right, so it's going to be like way out here somewhere. But well, in any case, I don't know how much more of that we need to see specifically. It's just a 3-point perspective. These lines converge to that side. These lines converge to that side. The vertical ones converge up. Because the horizon line is below the picture plane, we don't get any weird distortion really, but this third vanishing point, the vertical vanishing point, is way up outside the picture because we are looking up, but we're not looking way up. You know, we're still looking like across at these buildings a lot and up. It's not like we're kind of standing in the middle of them looking straight up. So the vanishing point is pretty far outside of the picture. Let's see. Let me find another. Oh, okay. Here's a cool one. So this is kind of a cool picture, and it displays a couple of cool principles. So I'm going to treat this as 1 point, but it's actually a good example of how different sets of parallel lines will give us different sets of vanishing points. Because whatever surface this guy is standing on, it's converging this way, right? So I'm going to call the vanishing point about right there, right about the head level of this person, which makes sense. Like if we look back, we see that he's probably obviously standing on a very high point because all of these buildings are lower. But we see all of these buildings kind of converging up toward that horizon line. In fact, if we look back, we can see, it actually, everything does kind of disappear right back there. I'm going to back up because I accidentally drew on the same layer. So converging here, converging here. This thing's a little wobbly. It's not exactly totally straight line, so we're going to have to estimate. Put the vanishing point or the horizon line like right there. That also means, since the vanishing point, or since the horizon line is always at the exact level of where your eye level is or where the picture is being taken, then whoever's taking this picture is probably right about the same height as this person, maybe slightly taller, taking the picture from like right about head level there. We can see, these buildings are obviously going to be angled in different directions. Most big cities have streets that kind of go all different angles. It's not just a straight grid. So these will all be kind of going to their own vanishing points, but many of them are not converging straight to this vanishing point here. They'll be kind of going over here because they're on their own set of vanishing points. All right, let me see if there's anything else. We're getting kind of late here. I don't want to keep everybody too long. Let's see. That's another one. I won't draw these. I'll just talk through some of these. Here's another one where we have that technically 2-point, but it's kind of like a 1-point with it. We tend to think of 2-point as when, the vanishing points are out here, and the lines are converging like this. So this is technically 2-point, but it's basically like 1-point because all of these lines are flat. They're not converging. These are converging, so they're going to be converging somewhere way up here. And then obviously we also have these vertical lines converging. So let me see, what else do we have? You know what? It's kind of just a lot more of the same. Here's one more where this one's cool because we can actually like really see the horizon there. So much that it's actually curving a little bit, like the Earth does. This is probably more of a fisheye lens kind of situation. Although, you can see the curvature of the Earth sometimes if you're looking at a long enough section of the horizon. And then most of these buildings are pretty squared up with each other, so we do see, okay, let's just estimate a horizon line right in there. And then we'll see all of these buildings kind of going back toward a point over here. These ones all kind of coming back toward a point over here. And then, of course, we've got that vertical convergence, everything coming down toward a point way down low. So we did get started a little bit late, but I think we're probably coming up about on as long as we should be going here. So I think that should about cover it. Hopefully you guys have a good understanding of basic linear perspective now. It's not that hard. It starts to seem difficult when you have to kind of solve more complex problems with it, and I'll cover a lot of that next week. But the basics are pretty simple, and I think you guys will probably have a good handle on it now. So let's see. For homework, I just want you guys to build 10 little scenes, just a picture plane, and arrange your horizon line and your vanishing points. Do a few each of like 1-point, 2-point, 3-point. Just do some basic boxes in there. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you want to challenge yourself a little, you can throw some figures in there. It could just be simple stick figures. But just simple scenes, flat planes, boxes. Set up your vanishing points, set up your horizon lines according to the way I've explained it here. And that's about it. So thank you guys very much. We will probably finish up with perspective next week. I mean, there's obviously always more that we can go into, but I think next week should probably be all we need to get through the most important stuff, and then maybe we can revisit it later. So thanks for coming to class, guys, and I will catch you all next time.